Hi everyone, Paul here from Polymath.com, and here beside me I've got the Warhammer 40k Assault on Black Reach starter set. In this video I'm going to cover the paints and paintbrushes that you're going to need in order to get this thing going. In the previous video I covered the tools and accessories that you're going to need. So in this one we're going to dive right into the painting of the set. So what I did is I actually went into the guide that comes with this set, the Assault on Black Reach guide, and I went through the pages, and on these pages here they show you how to paint the Space Marines, and they show you how to paint the Orcs, and they give you some of the basic colors that you're going to need. So I made a list of those, and I'm going to go through them in a minute here with you. Now you can go nuts and you can get all kinds of different colors and paints, and you can paint them whatever way you want. But I just wanted to give you guys the basic colors that they talk about in the guide itself, so you can get started with them, and then you can kind of expand from there. So before we dive into the paint colors and the rest of the paintbrushes and stuff, I just wanted to mention that you don't need to worry about writing any of this stuff down. At the end of this video I'm going to have a link at the bottom that will point to my site, where I have a page set up specifically for the Assault on Black Reach set, and listed there will be a listing of all the different things I'm going to talk about in this video, including the colors and the colors that you're going to need to paint your Orcs and your Space Marines. So let's dive right in. The first thing that you're going to need, and I think this is optional. You can decide whether you want to get one of these or not. You could just as easily use put some cardboard down and some newspaper. But the first thing that I'm going to cover is something called a painting station. So this is what this looks like. Essentially what it is just a spot for you to do your painting. On the side here there's little slots for you to keep your brushes in. There's also slots for watering pot. So that's basically, this is a painting station. Now the one cool thing about these painting stations is that these pieces actually come off and they unfold, and you can basically break this down and lay it flat so it doesn't take up a lot of space in your room, so you can break this down. So that's the painting station. The next thing we're going to talk about is paintbrushes. So there's a different ways to go with this. The first thing that you might want to pick up if you haven't got any brushes yet is basically just the basic starter set of brushes, which comes with 3 brushes, a fine tip one, a medium tip, and I think there's one for dry brushing. So you can either pick them up in a set of 3, which is your basic set, or you can get the complete set, which comes with 10 different brushes. If there's one thing I would recommend, okay, hello. We've got a little visitor here. She wants to get into Warhammer as well. You need to get down. So with the paintbrushes, one thing I would recommend is definitely, if you're going to spend money on anything, get yourself a good set of brushes. The Citadel ones are great. Yeah, I would definitely recommend, if you're going to spend money on anything, spend it on the on quality brushes. Otherwise, it's going to drive you nuts trying to paint the miniatures. So, beside the paint brushes, the next thing we want to cover is the brush holder. So, there's a couple of ways to go about this. What I used to just use a couple of plastic cups like this, where I'd fill them with water. And one was for metallic paints, the other one was for non-metallic paints, and I used to basically just use that. The other day when I was picking this thing up, I did pick up one of these watering pots, and at first I didn't really understand why people would spend money on a plastic cup, basically. But when I brought it home, I actually looked at it, and what I realized is this thing is actually really cool. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera here, but there are these little slots here, these grooves that they've made, where they actually fit your brushes really nicely. So when you place the brush inside this watering pot, they stay really nice. And the cool thing about this is that you can place your brushes with the bristles down, And the way that these little slots are made is that they actually hold the brush in place without the bristle, the tip of the bristle actually touching the bottom. So they kind of hover maybe a little bit more than halfway down, which is really cool because that protects your brushes from what you don't want to be doing is you don't want to be using something like this and keeping your brushes like that, because the tip is going to get damaged over time. And if you're spending good money on brushes, you don't want to be damaging them by leaving them in your cup facing down. So that's what this thing is for. And if you're wondering why you'd spend money on this, this will save these. So you know, you'd probably want to pick up one of these or a couple of them. So the next thing is a palette. I actually haven't picked one up yet, but basically a palette is just a sheet of plastic. Here's one that has 4 slots where you can kind of mix the colors and things like that. There's different kinds of palettes out there. I'll have a link on my site to the different ones. And essentially what you use the palettes for is for mixing the paints, and also if you take some paper towel and you rip a little piece of paper towel and you place it inside one of these, or the other palettes have slightly bigger slots for it. You can pour a little bit of water on the paper towel, and you can create something called a wet palette, where if you put the paint on it, it keeps the paint from drying out, so you don't have to have your paints open all the time. You can basically put it in here, put it on the wet palette, and it'll keep the paint wet while you're painting your miniatures. So yeah, the next thing that they recommend is obviously some paper towel for wiping down your brushes, and if you're going to use a wet palette to, you know, rip out a little piece and do that. And the other thing that they recommend is some newspapers, and that's basically if you're not using a painting station, to put down some newspaper or cardboard or something to protect your furniture so you don't get paint all over the place. And also you may, if you're going to use, actually I'll dive into that in a second here when I talk about the paints, but you may need a cardboard box if you're going to use spray paint for doing your priming or your base coats. Okay, so now that we've gone through that, let's dive into the colors that you're going to need in the different paints. So there's a few different types of paints out there. One looks like this, which is basically a spray paint. This is the Chaos Black primer or base coat, and basically the way this works is you take your miniatures, you build them, and you can take a cardboard box, turn it on its side, place the miniatures inside, and then use the spray can to spray them down, and that'll give you a nice even base coat for your miniatures. Because the other option you have is to basically buy the individual paints, which they come in little jars like this. This is an old jar. I think this is the old style that I bought a couple years back. I think the new ones look like this. They have a white lid and they're round in the top. These ones are kind of in hexagon shape, yeah, it's a hexagon. So however, when I was at my local store the other day, I think I still saw a whole bunch of these. So I'm not sure if these are still around. If it's just same thing, 2 different boxes. I'm not really sure what the deal is with that. But if you go to your store, you buy these online. Some of them look like this, and some of them look like this. Don't freak out. I'm pretty sure they're the exact same paint. They're just in a different box. So when it comes down to painting these or priming them or base coating them, you can pick up Chaos Black, which is what they recommend was one of the colors. I'll go through the colors in a second here. But you can pick up Chaos Black in a jar like this. But if you're painting, you know, a whole set of these or 4 sets of these, you'll run out of this paint real quick, which is why they sell the spray-on type, which is a lot more cost efficient, and it's a lot quicker too. So you can basically spray base coat the whole set at once. You don't have to sit there with a brush and try to do it manually. Okay, so all right, so let's go through the colors. Now, as I said, what I'm listing here is just what is listed in this guide. So these are the basic colors that they recommend for painting the Space Marines and the Orcs. You can choose your own colors. It's completely up to you. I'm just going to give you a list of what's in the guide in case you want to pick up the colors that they recommend. So there's going to be a list of these on my site, so don't freak out. You don't have to write these down. But essentially, for the Space Marines, they recommend, what is it here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different colors. So the first one is Chaos Black, which is basically just what we talked about a couple seconds ago. So that's for the base coat. Then they have Mordian Blue, Bolt Gun Metal, Shining Gold, Blood Red, Ultramarines Blue, and Mithril Silver. So those are the colors that they recommend for the Space Marines. For the Orcs, the colors they have is, the first two are the same as from the Space Marines, which is Chaos Black for the base coat, obviously, and Bolt Gun Metal, which we already covered in the Space Marines. And there's 4 other colors that they recommend, which are Orchide Shade, Scorched Brown, Goblin Green, and Bleached Bone. So that'll cover you. Those are the colors you need for the Orcs. The other thing that they talk about in this guide is a few colors for the stands, for the bases on the miniatures. So for the bases, what they recommend is getting some of this PVA glue, picking up some sand, so you can take the base, put some glue on it, dip it in the sand, pull it out, and then wait for it to dry. And once you got the base covered with the sand, there's 2 colors that they recommend, which are Graveyard Earth and Bleached Bone. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the colors. And right below this video, right about now, you should see the URL to my site, which is www.polymath.com/40k. So you can go ahead and go to that site, and you have a listing of all the stuff that I covered in this video. The other thing I just wanted to quickly mention, if you're watching this on YouTube, right above this video, you should see a subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button, and leave some comments for me as well. If you have any questions about Assault on Blackreach, go ahead and ask, and I'll see if I can help you guys out. I'm just getting started in this, so I'm no expert by any means, but I don't mind helping out and doing some research and finding out some of these answers, because I have the same questions as well. So leave some comments, subscribe to the channel, and I do plan on running some contests in the near future where I'm going to be giving away some free stuff for people who subscribe and leave comments on my YouTube videos. Alright, so that's it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.